Hi everyone, Wolfie Rankin here. This is not about vinyl. It's a story, and it's hopefully part one of a story that you'll get every so often as we progress. It's about my passion for music. You know, my mum knew that I really loved music the day that she took me out to breastfeed. And, I was only a very, very small baby at the time. And she took me out to the lounge room and she put the television on, and some band struck up a tune. And I turned around and I didn't let go of her nipple, and there was a hell of a scream. And that was a story that she told everyone over and over. And I got a bit sick of it towards the end, I think. But it was the truth. I was very interested in music. I knew music. I knew the names of songs even when I was in kindergarten. Um, and this was a time when, kids didn't have Walkmans or iPads or anything like that. Nowadays, it's really common for kids to have walk around with thousands of songs in their pockets. But back then, you was a bit of a freak if you had a tape machine. So, so anyway, I was singing out the back. I used to sing out the back. There was a fernery, and I used to get on the roof because I used to love climbing up there. And there was an apple tree, and there was lots of shade. And I used to sit under that apple tree, and I used to sing. And I suppose I used to sing Puff the Magic Dragon and Rock and Roll and Riding and all that kind of thing. And the neighbours would tell my mum that I had this beautiful voice. Whether I did or not, I don't really know. But anyway, they said that I did. And there was one point later on that came up where I was listening to people on the radio and the television, and I noticed how much better their voice was compared to mine. And I got really embarrassed about that. And I stopped singing, and I never sang again. My mum said to me at that point, well, a bit later when she realized I wasn't singing anymore, "Why aren't you singing anymore? You used to sing all the time. You must have heard some kids say something about you at school and you just gave up, didn't you?" And I went, "No, Mum, that's not what happened." And she said, "Yeah, yeah, that's what happened, wasn't it?" And I went, "No, it wasn't." But she just got on with things, and so did I, and she didn't question it. Had she questioned it, maybe I would have found out about practicing and about having a music teacher. And our school had no music teacher. And my high school had no music teacher either. So I missed out on learning something that would have been something that was really great. Um, and I had a friend called Dave Brown who knew a lot about guitars, and we used to talk about guitars now and then. And it wasn't really the kind of instrument that I would have chosen. I really was a synth freak. About just about all my music that I really love is synth driven. And although it's not necessarily true now, but back in the day it certainly was. And Fairlight CMI, I would have loved to get got my hands on one of those because those were awesome. Moogs and all of those, and my hero was Jean-Michel Jarre. Loved his stuff. Um, but yeah, Dave Brown started talking to me about guitars and the different kind of guitars that he'd had over the years, and people he knew in music shops over the years who had really good instruments that were cost a shitload, couldn't afford. But nevertheless, I was really kind of intrigued with this, and I started to think that it would be nicer to play a guitar than a synth because the guy who plays the keyboard is usually down the back, and the guy who has the guitar is usually out the front, and he's having a ball. And I think that would be a nicer thing. And you can take your guitar with you where you can't take synths everywhere. And, it's sort of a very intimate instrument when you're playing it by yourself. There's a lot of sexuality going on with guitar playing, I think. And guitars themselves can be quite sexy to look at. Not that I have a fetish or anything. Uh, but yeah, I'm sure there must be people out there who've got guitar fetishes. God knows I've seen everything else. Um, but anyway, I was having a chat with him and I was really quite interested. But there's so many brands, there's so many types, and I just didn't know. And then I said to a friend just recently, I'm sort of writing a book about this fictional band. And as I was writing it, I started to think, but I don't know anything about guitars. And that vexed me a little bit because, when you see a show about operations and things like ER or something, just imagine that it, they didn't know what they were doing, or Hawkeye on MASH. Now they had advisors, people who could walk in and say, now you're taking out an appendix, you usually start around about here and you cut that bit open and then you take that bit out and you suture it up and so forth. And there was an essence of people who knew what they were talking about. Although, Hawkeye, Alan Alda clearly admits he knows absolutely nothing about operating on anyone. But I wouldn't be surprised that he's got more idea than he would have had he not done MASH. Um, so with that in mind, I started thinking, well, maybe I should start reading up about guitar playing, and um, maybe I should actually maybe get my hands on one. A friend of mine, I explained this to a friend, and she said to me, "It sounds really like you want to actually start learning to play a guitar." And I think that was the part that really made me think, yeah, that's kind of really what I want to do, but I really can't sort of be bothered. But now I sort of something's been going on in my head for the last few months, and I've been thinking, yeah, I really want to do this. So I started searching for a guitar. I didn't know what I wanted. Normally, people will go for either Fender or they'll go for Gibson, two excellent brands. I know there's Maton and other things out there as well. But the price of those things can be astronomical. And people were saying to me also, normally what you do when you learn a guitar, you get an acoustic guitar and start off with that. And I thought, yeah, I kind of like that idea, but I didn't like the look of the guitars. I think a lot of acoustic guitars look kind of boring, to be honest. And what's the point of having something? I want it to look sexy. I want it to have the look as well as work properly. So I started looking for something that attracted my attention, something that really, sparkled and not made my heart race or anything. Well, maybe when I start playing the thing, if I ever start playing the thing, um, I'll get to that soon. I wanted something that looked nice, basically, really nice, but didn't cost a fortune because I don't have a fortune to spend. So um, I had a look around and I found one called Hagstrom. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce the word, but it's a Swedish manufacturer who are now making them from China. Unfortunately, everything comes from China these days, just about. Not really keen on that, but I started looking at a few reviews on YouTube, and some of the reviews were stellar for this guitar. Yeah, it's not quite as good as a Gibson, but it's not bad. And certainly for the price, for the price of it, you could buy maybe about four Gibsons. So that wasn't bad. So I started looking for a retailer in Australia, and nobody had it. Nobody. And I thought, this is really odd. And I went on Amazon. I thought, oh, well, I can go there and I can probably get one from overseas. Except for one problem, they wouldn't ship them to Australia. Apparently, they've got some thing where they won't ship guitars to Australia. I don't know why. Uh, then I got a tweet from Hagstrom themselves, and they said, we don't have a distributor in Australia. And I just went, "Arr." So I had a look on eBay, and I found people who had them but had the wrong color, because I started looking at a particular color, and it was a cherry red one, a wild cherry transparent. That's what it's called. And I thought, that's the one that I want. I don't want a black one. I don't want a white one. I want that one. And once I get my mind on something, I'm pretty fixed on it. So I saw a guy playing a black one, and a black Hagstrom, and it was a slight difference. It was a Hagstrom Viking P, which has slightly different humbuckers on it. And I looked at this and I thought, yeah, that's my guitar, but I want it in wild cherry. So I had a look around, and some of the people that would sell them to Australia wanted to sell them for about twice the price. And some of them, the postage was really high. And then I found one guy who had it. Oh, there was one guy who had the black one. I asked him, and apparently he runs a music shop, and he got back to me and he said, Hagstrom don't make them anymore, and they've sold out in America. You won't get one now. And I thought, damn. So there was one on another eBay site, and I thought, I wonder. And it said, probably won't ship to Australia. So I wrote to him and I said, I've been looking for this guitar everywhere, but I'm in Australia. But if you change your mind, you've probably got a seller, a buyer, and and within about half an hour, I had an email back, and he said, I've changed it. You can buy it now if you want it. And I said, great. So I bought it. So there's a Hagstrom Viking P wild cherry transparent coming to me. It's on its way, and it should be here by early November. So that's the guitar. And then I started to think to myself, okay, I don't have an amplifier. What then? And then I thought, hang on, maybe I can connect it to the computer via USB. I've got a really good sound card, and I've got great Yamaha speakers. Perhaps that would be an option. So I looked around and I found this connector for about $100, and that looked to be the thing. And then I reviewed it on YouTube, and there was a guy who said, they're terrible, don't get one. And you can just get this cable from China, which is like $9 or something, and it's actually better. The other thing's got too much latency in it, which basically means that if you strike a string, you're going to hear it a few nanoseconds later, which is going to really screw up your song. Because I had a similar problem with this microphone for a while, and this microphone is supposed to be anti-latency. So it took me a long time actually to figure that out, so that it wasn't latent, because at first it was giving me a lot of echoes. It was a cow of a thing to set up. It took me about a month before I cracked it. So anyway, I got on Amazon because I thought that would be the place to buy it. And I found all sorts of cables that were quite similar. And then another one that was supposed to be for this game thing that somebody had mentioned to me about a day before, called, what was it? Rock something. Rocksmith. That was it. And somebody had the cable and the game for $100. And there were guitar picks with it. So, well, no, but I could package them in with it, and I'd have like the set. So I went, yeah, okay, I'll get that. And I've seen reviews on Rocksmith, and it looks pretty fascinating. It looks like that guitar game that everyone was playing. I'm not a gamer. I just hate games. I just think I just don't see the point in spending so much time dicking around with something that's not going to make a lick of difference to your life. And spending so much time on Guitar Hero and, dicking around on this little plastic toy guitar and becoming an expert at it, but you can't actually play guitar. Explain to me why that's good. I don't get it. I'm really good at Guitar Hero. Well, big fizz. So somebody has come up with this thing where you can play a real, actual guitar with this game, and at the end, you're supposed to be able to play an actual guitar, an actual song on an actual guitar. And I thought, that sounds logical. And it's sort of given me a feeling of a light at the end of the tunnel rather than like a dead end street. Like I started to think, well, if I get a guitar, that's easy enough. I can get a guitar, but will I be able to play the thing? And I didn't really think that I could. I thought maybe I could learn a little bit, but I thought, like many others, I think what's probably going to happen if I dick around like that is that it's going to end up in the cupboard and not being played, and I'm just going to give it away and just go back to collecting vinyl again. So I've seen some videos where they do this like 60-day challenge, and they plug their guitars in and they play this game for 60 days, and by about the end of it, they're able to play a whole song. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I've had a few people say to me it's really good. So maybe it will work. So this is what the videos, this series of videos is going to be about. Probably the next video you see will be of me getting some of these bits and pieces for the guitar, or the guitar itself. And then as things go, I'll update you on how things are going. And if, hopefully by the end of the series, hopefully I can sit here and actually play you a song. Now, I've never had any experience with a guitar. I had relations who were given electric guitars when they were teenagers, and they were older than me, and I just had no idea, and I don't think they ever really learnt how to play them. I think they were just given them, and I think they were probably really cheap ones anyway. So I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I've kind of got this thing now where I want to pick up a guitar and be able to play it and say, see, I can play a guitar. That would be very nice. One of the things my mother said about a day before she died, she said to me, "Thank you for bringing music into this house." I had a lot of records as a teenager. Mum thought some of them were a little bit peculiar, but I don't think she ever thought that my music was horrible or outrageous or anything. And I never bought music to offend my parents, because I really don't see any point in doing that. I bought music because I liked it, and generally they did too. I think they grew to like it. I think they might have thought it was a bit peculiar first, because they were sort of brought up on 40s music and Frank Sinatra and things like that. I quite liked having them around too, because what happened was, I'd go to school and kids would have much younger parents than I did, because I was born really late. Mum had me in her 40s, and she was born in 1924. So I had this really wide gamut of music that I was familiar with. So I think I was possibly more fortunate in some ways, but they didn't understand rock. So, Mum, I can remember Mum saying earlier on that she couldn't. I hate all that screaming music they're doing today, and that was in the 70s. And then ABBA came along, and that was my first adult record. From jumping from kids records to adult records. Sounds like it should almost be wrapped in plastic. I don't mean it like that. Actually, some of the records do. No, actually, the records that were sold in Australia natively were not shrink wrapped. We never saw shrink wrapping until I don't know, maybe the 90s, I think. It was really odd. Oh, look, this has been shrink wrapped. Even the CDs were just bare. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm diverting. So the series is going to be on Will Wolfie be a rock star? No, I don't think I'm ever going to be a rock star. But hey, if it leads to something, that's cool. Or for me to be a backing player in, a studio group or something like that, that'd be fine. Um, I just want to do it for my own satisfaction, and if I can do that, then hooray! I'm going to be a happy boy. I can say I can play a guitar. So there you go. So anyway, I have put a few of my a few videos on my Facebook of this Rocksmith game, so you can check them out if you want, or just go on YouTube and search for them and see what you think. I really do think that it might be a way and a means of getting to a point where I can play. Um, I'm a little bit dubious, but then I always am. That's my nature. I'm a pessimist, so I really doubt my abilities, and I doubt everybody's abilities generally. But unless they've proven themselves, so I don't know what's going to go on here. But wish me luck. So from me and my little putty tat, who's been very quiet and good on my lap, that's Vicky. I will bid you adieu, and please stick with me, and we'll see what happens. Could be interesting. Bye.